Court's immunity ruling as part of his legal strategy. He's calling on the judge in his hush money trial to set aside his conviction and delay next week's sentencing. In a historic 6-3 decision, the justices ruled former presidents have broad immunity from prosecution, preventing a pre-election trial on charges Trump tried to overturn his 2020 election loss. Trump says the ruling is a big win, but President Joe Biden called it a terrible disservice to the nation.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law. No one is above the law, not even the President of the United States.
Hurricane Beryl is setting its sights on Jamaica after tearing through Grenada, killing at least one person while destroying homes, businesses, and boats. Beryl is now a Category 5 storm and is
millions and millions and the billions of dollars that have gone down the drain.
A scare in the sky on a flight from Madrid to Uruguay. Severe turbulence injured more than 24 passengers, leaving some people with neck and skull fractures. Those are your headlines. Now here's a look at your weather on the ones.
I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. The hot weather continues to be a big story across the South. Temperatures above 100 degrees in Dallas, Texas, and in Oklahoma City. Nashville, 96. In New York City, 80 for today. Portland, not bad, 77 today. But temperatures are going to reach the upper 90s over the holiday weekend. Taking a look at the showers and storms, they're producing flooding in Iowa. Areas of rain will continue in parts of the Southwest.
Thanks so much for joining us here on Spectrum News. I'm Bree Driscoll. Today is Tuesday, July 2nd. Our top story, an extraordinary expansion of executive power opens a new chapter in former President Donald Trump's legal saga. In a historic decision on Monday, the Supreme Court ruled former presidents have broad immunity from criminal prosecution for official acts, making it all but certain Trump will not go on trial in the January 6th case until after the election. Trump says the ruling is a big win, but President Joe Biden called it a terrible disservice to the nation. Spectrum national reporter Angie Gonzalez has more.
Within hours of the Supreme Court's decision on presidential immunity, attorneys for former President Donald Trump sought to use the High Court's ruling to set aside his conviction in New York's hush money case.
What we have in New York is a situation where a substantial number of official acts of the presidency, things that we believe are official acts, were used as evidence to support the charges in that New York trial.
Trump was already appealing the jury's verdict, but now in a new letter to the judge who oversaw the case, Trump's attorneys seek to have that set aside. They point to Chief Justice John Roberts' opinion, which outlined the presidential immunity afforded to former presidents prohibits prosecutors from using official acts as evidence in trying to prove a president's unofficial actions violated the law.
And at the very least, we deserve a new trial where those immune acts will not come into evidence as the Supreme Court dictated.
In his first public address from the White House since his heavily criticized debate performance, President Joe Biden admonished the Supreme Court's decision.
This nation was founded on the principle that there are no kings in America. Each of us is equal before the law.
Biden also made the argument that could become a recurring theme in his campaign, that the Supreme Court's ruling makes another Trump presidency an even greater threat to democracy.
The American people must decide if they want to entrust the president once again, the presidency, to Donald Trump.
In addition to asking the judge to set aside Trump's conviction, attorneys for the former president are asking for a delay in his sentencing, which is scheduled for next week. In Washington, Angie Gonzalez, Spectrum News.
Let's go now to our political director, Bob Hart. Bob, President Biden giving that speech that some would say is more political from the White House last night. His messaging was very much in line with what he's been saying on the campaign trail, that former President Trump is a threat to democracy.
Yeah, I mean, it was a political and legal win for the former president. And so Joe Biden wants to counterpunch. This also sets up questions for future presidents, Bree. We can see future presidents now saying, well, I did such and such a thing as part of my job. So this is really going to kick the can down the road to future courts to decide what was officially part of a president's job and what was unofficially part of a president's job.
Now, has the Supreme Court decision in Biden's speech last night, has that been able to distract from his debate performance?
It has been, for sure, because we're talking about that really instead of the debate. And I think that's what the Biden team is hoping for, Bree, that the debate was in June, not in September. It gives them time, a little breathing room. And also, as we all know, news overtakes all of this. So there's going to be something that you and I don't have on our radar that could be dominating the presidential race, say, in next September.
And former President Richard Nixon's counsel, John Dean, speaking out yesterday about the Supreme Court's decision, saying that it would have meant Nixon would have been immune from his criminal actions during Watergate that ultimately led to his resignation. I mean, you can't change the past, but it's an interesting take.
Yeah, and I don't think he's wrong in that some of the initial probes, I could see the Nixon White House pushing back, saying that this was part of his day job. I mean, that's certainly what Nixon had been saying, that when the president does something, it's not illegal. And you can sort of hear some of the echoes of what he's saying in this Supreme Court ruling. Now, listen, the majority would say, we're not saying anything a president does is okay. In fact, Amy Coney Barrett, in her concurring opinion, said that this whole case about creating a phony slate of electors, she said this is, in her mind, is not part of official action. So she's already sort of pointing things out for the federal court below her, saying this does not fall under Trump's day job.
And finally, Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez saying she wants to bring articles of impeachment against at least one justice after the immunity decision. Bob, let's say she follows through with this. How does this work?
I mean, the Democrats do not have a majority, so I think that's where it would end. But let's say they do. I guess you would be targeting Clarence Thomas, or I'm not sure who, or maybe Alito, and then you would impeach them, and then you would, if you were successful in impeaching them, you would have a trial in the Senate. I think this is more performative politics because they're in the minority, but it does show you where a lot of Democrats' heads are at, which is extreme anger at the Supreme Court for a number of decisions, not just this one, obviously.
All right, Bob Hart, thank you very much.
Thank you.
The first named hurricane of the season is now a Category 5 storm, bringing 150-mile-per-hour winds and up to 3 feet of storm surge to the Caribbean. Travelers for the 4th of July holiday are also preparing for flight delays. Spectrum News anchor Jenny Enoch explains.
Hurricane Beryl is making history as a monstrous, powerful storm wreaking havoc on the Windward Islands.
It is total devastation. Total devastation.
Beryl intensified as it plummeted Grenada, ripping off doors, windows, and roofs, destroying fishing boats and snapping trees and power lines. The storm is now the earliest Atlantic Category 5 hurricane ever recorded. Plus, Beryl is hitting early. The first major hurricane of the season doesn't typically hit until late July or early August.
This is madness. I have never seen this in my 46 years of life.
The National Hurricane Center says Beryl hit St. Vincent, Barbados, and other places as a Category 4. The eye of the hurricane is in fairly open waters of the Caribbean Sea. People in the Cayman Islands are prepping for Beryl, packing sandbags and bracing for what's to come.
The damage is, right now, I'm real heartbroken because this is a lot of work. This is more than a week's work here. We have sand also not on the outside, but on the inside of the shop.
And the hurricane expected to impact Haiti and the Dominican Republic today. There's a chance it could eventually hit Mexico, so schools are being turned into shelters just in case.
There's nothing more we can do but stand and watch total destruction. Our livelihood going down the drain.
The severe weather is also disrupting travel. Early 2,500 flights canceled Sunday, which is considered the busiest summer travel day of the year. Jenna Enoch, Spectrum News.
More than 24 passengers injured in another mid-air scare that prompted an emergency landing. The story coming up right here on Spectrum News.
Here's the deal. In this election year, people need a place to explore national issues that have an impact on their community. To understand those issues better, we're bringing together our team of local political journalists from across the country to break down what's happening. So join us every week to catch up on the key stories making a big difference across the nation and in your local community.
Watch The Big Deal with Errol Lewis Friday nights at 9 Eastern, 8 Central on Spectrum News Plus. Available on all of your favorite devices exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, we know how much you depend on the reliability of our products and services. Now, we've taken a new step forward in reliability by identifying potential service issues before they become a problem. If you're affected, we'll contact you and help schedule a free service appointment with one of our expert technicians. The proactive maintenance of our network is one of the many reasons Spectrum delivers the most reliable internet speeds in the nation. Spectrum, keeping you connected.
When I was in foster care, I never knew when I would have to move. So I always had my suitcase ready to go. Then one day, I was adopted. My new parents opened their hearts and home to me. My parents cook my favorite breakfast for me every morning. My parents take me on trips I never thought I would go on. They gave me a home and an even better reason to use that suitcase. My parents aren't perfect, but they're perfect for me.
I found hope in the midst of an overwhelming situation.
Alcoholism is a disease that can affect any family. Everyone suffers, but there is help and hope at Al-Anon Family Groups.
Al-Anon gave me my life back. I'm a better father and husband.
Are you in an overwhelming situation because of someone else's drinking? Al-Anon and Alateen can help. Local and virtual meetings are available. Maybe one could work for you. Call 1-866-200-0033 or visit alanon.org/hope.
Hi, I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. We're talking about the heat. That's right, hot weather for our 4th of July, a risk of severe storms for parts of the plains or the Midwest, and we have powerful Hurricane Beryl in the Caribbean. I'll talk more about that coming up in 10 minutes. But I want to talk about the heat today. All these areas where you see this orange and this pink color, that's where we have heat advisories or excessive heat warnings, and these last through tomorrow in some spots. So for portions of Mississippi, Louisiana, Texas, Arkansas, all the way up to parts of Missouri and Kansas, the heat's the big story for you. Out west in areas of California, we have these excessive heat warnings, and this is going to last through the holiday weekend. So not right at the coast, but areas away from the coast will be dealing with brutal conditions, I think, for the holiday, right on through the weekend too. Take a look at our expected high temperatures today. Bakersfield, California, 106 degrees. Palm Springs, 112. Furnace Creek, 118. Phoenix is 110 today. El Paso, Texas, 104. It's 90 degrees in Albuquerque for this afternoon. So here's the hot weather I'm expecting. In Oklahoma City, not only is it hot, but you have some gusty winds to deal with. Dallas, Texas, sunny, 102 today and a low of 83 tonight. Austin and San Antonio will be over 100 degrees. And New Orleans is mostly sunny, 96 degrees today, 80 degrees for a low temperature tonight. Now we take a look at what's happening across the Midwest. And in Milwaukee and in Chicago, we have chances of rain. Des Moines, a lot of rain, flooding concerns for you, 83 degrees today. Indianapolis is 88. We have a chance of rain, otherwise partly sunny skies. And in Kansas City, not only chances of rain, but look at that high today, 96 degrees. Another heat advisory. Temperatures are going to be well above normal here. And lows tonight, not comfortable at all, 73 degrees. I'll be back with an update on the tropics.
If you're just joining us, here's a look at what you need to know. Former President Donald Trump is calling on the judge in his hush money trial to set aside his conviction and delay next week's sentencing after the Supreme Court's immunity ruling. President Joe Biden calling the decision a terrible disservice to the nation. Hurricane Beryl is setting its sights on Jamaica after tearing through Grenada, killing at least one person. Beryl is now a Category 5 storm and is packing strong winds, torrential rain, and a life-threatening storm surge. And severe turbulence injuring more than 24 passengers on a flight from Madrid to Uruguay. Photos showing the ceiling and seats badly damaged by the turbulence. And that's a look at what you need to know today. A federal appeals court is allowing a plan to lower monthly payments for millions of student loan borrowers to move forward. The decision is a major part of President Joe Biden's plan to address student debt. The rule lowers the 10% of discretionary income some borrowers were required to pay down to 5%. The rule was set to take effect on July 1st, but was blocked by judges in Kansas and Missouri last week. It impacts some 3 million borrowers. As we are seeing more people hitting the beach and taking a dip in the ocean, rip currents are becoming increasingly hazardous, with more than a dozen deaths so far this year. It's why one lifeguard is being hailed a hero after rescuing an entire family. Our Ariel Wessler spoke with him and has more on what you need to know to stay safe.
It's not sharks, but dangerous rip currents that lifeguards say account for the most beach rescues every year, killing about 100 people, according to the U.S. Life Saving Association. The National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration says rip currents have drowned 8 people since June 20th, and it may have been more if not for off-duty lifeguard Mariano Martinez.
I have my rescue staff with me, always in my car.
He rescued a family of 7 on June 22nd at Lido Beach in Sarasota, Florida, after a storm triggered dangerous surf along the Gulf of Mexico.
Well, I had in the water 9 people, and 7 from the same family in complete distress, and 2 more people jump in the water before me to try to help.
Despite being off duty, Martinez's instincts kicked in and he leapt into action, grabbing a rescue tube and swimming out to a group of swimmers in distress. The rip current had pulled them more than 200 yards away from shore.
They was crying. They say me thank you.
Rip currents are powerful channels of water moving away from shore as fast as 8 feet per second. In this photo from NOAA, a harmless green dye shows the path of a rip current.
These storms often create those conditions in a moment's notice. And so, we'll change flags from yellow to red pretty quickly as these storms approach.
For Martinez, he says being a lifeguard is his passion, and he's grateful the family is safe.
I never think leave this situation in my best dream. Never. I am living, I'm in the sky.
Ariel Wessler, Spectrum News.
An urban farm in Milwaukee is doing more than just helping gardens grow. An organization is helping those with disabilities learn the skills they need to thrive. Our Megan Marshall has the story.
Okay, here it is.
There's just something about being here planting and digging in the dirt that brings joy to Matthew Allen's life.
Ooh, all right.
Matthew is autistic and has been learning life skills through the Centers for Independence for a long time. Over the past year, the organization expanded its urban farm and horticulture program, much to Matthew's delight.
Oh, that's it.
He and dozens of other people with special needs do all the work, from starting the seeds to making sure the crops flourish, with the help of program leaders like Aaron Dentis.
All right.
You did beautifully, my friend.
Oh, thanks.
Then they deliver what they grow to local restaurants who purchase the fresh produce from the organization, watching it go from farm to table and providing a purpose.
It's extremely rewarding for the clients because they tap into skills that we don't always see that they have strengths in.
Boosting confidence in the garden and in life.
And right there.
Smooth it out. It's good for them to find skills that they didn't realize that they had and to really feel that confidence when a project is finished.
As Matthew waters his basil, he's actually watering so much more, growing his own independence and cultivating a brighter, fuller future.
1, 2, 3.
Still, while always looking for what's blooming next. In Milwaukee, Megan Marshall, Spectrum News.
Dozens of international passengers were injured on a plane after it hit strong turbulence yesterday. According to the Spanish airline Air Europa, the Boeing aircraft had to make an emergency landing in Brazil. The flight was heading to Uruguay from Madrid. You can see the damage from inside the plane's cabin following that intense turbulence. At least 30 people suffered different types of injuries. Some are being treated at a hospital in Brazil. Next on Spectrum News, an Ohio doctor finds love in the midst of taking the scenic route.
Spectrum News Plus. News from a new perspective, dedicated to refreshing storytelling and empowering communities across the nation. With balanced reporting, providing real context and in-depth coverage 24 hours a day.
Here's a look at your forecast across the country.
Local stories, connecting communities. We are Spectrum News Plus. Streaming now on the Spectrum News app and free with your Spectrum subscription.
I don't remember how it started.
Go to that.
Our back and forth. It always came back.
Dad!
You probably don't remember what you told me,
That was perfect.
but I heard every word.
Hey, Bobo, do trees tell each other stories?
I'm sorry. I'm afraid I don't know that.
Hey, why don't we go find out? Listen.
Do clouds take naps?
I couldn't tell you.
Dad, do stars visit their friends?
Look!
Hi, I'm meteorologist Julie Marquez. 4th of July holiday just a couple of days away, and a lot of people are traveling. They're hitting the roads, they're getting to the airports, they're trying to fly somewhere else. So where can we expect some delays today? Well, you see the storm system here. There's a lot of rain leading to flooding concerns in parts of Iowa. A lot of rain for parts of Wisconsin and near Chicago too. Thunderstorms could be severe in this part of the country. Rain and thunderstorms will be increasing in parts of Florida, including in Orlando and in Tampa today. And then we have more rain for parts of the Southwest that have been dealing with all that flooding in New Mexico. And you can see how this system through the day tomorrow is going to be working its way across the Midwest. So we'll look for some areas of rain to develop here. Some spotty showers or thunderstorms expected across parts of the southeast, other parts of the country out west. It's not the rain that's the big issue. It is going to be the heat. But let's talk about the risk of severe weather for today. And you can see for parts of Iowa, Kansas, Missouri, Nebraska, there's a level 3 out of 5 risk of severe weather. Now it's mainly for damaging wind or large hail, but there could be some isolated tornadoes. So you want to watch for that in Cedar Rapids, in Omaha, Kansas City too. These areas are going to be favored for the risk of severe storms, and that risk would be increasing in Kansas City this afternoon and this evening. Make sure you have the Spectrum News app on your cell phone so you can be alerted to any severe weather in your area. Now an update on Hurricane Beryl. It is in the Caribbean. This is the earliest Category 5 hurricane on record for the Atlantic Basin. It moved through the Windward Islands yesterday. It's now south of Puerto Rico, far enough south that they don't have any tropical storm watches or warnings, but they're going to be dealing with rough surf and rip currents certainly. It's a Category 5 hurricane, and this is going to be working its way toward Jamaica as a major hurricane tomorrow, then the Cayman Islands, and while it could weaken near Mexico, it's going to be interacting with land and there will be wind shear, but there are still going to be possible implications here for parts of Mexico or even southeast Texas. So we look at the spaghetti model plot, big area of high pressures pushing it westward, and that's going to carry it in this direction, move it in this direction. But look what's happening. Some of the models are a little bit more towards South Texas. Others are a little farther south over Mexico, something that of course we're going to be watching for you during the coming week. This is going to continue to be a big headline for the Caribbean.
Well, the United States was eliminated from the Copa America with a 1-0 loss to Uruguay. The defeat will increase pressure on the U.S. Soccer Federation to remove coach Greg Berhalter before the 2026 World Cup. Uruguay's winning goal came from a questionable second-half goal by Matthias Oliveira. It happened when Nicolas de la Cruz swung a free kick in front of the U.S. goal. Oliveira appeared to be offside on the initial header. Making a career shift can be difficult at any stage in life, but one woman in Ohio has made several, and she says she couldn't have done it without the right person by her side. Our Kimberly Perez spoke to a pilot turned medical doctor about finding her passion and love along the way.
Let's go to the park. Her dog Maggie is one of Dr. Sholene Espinosa's many loves.
Good girl.
Espinosa took the scenic route to another of her loves, practicing medicine. It's something she found later in life, starting medical school at age 45.
Started menopause and OBGYN residency at the same time at the age of 50.
It's a big change for someone who spent most of her life flying. She joined the Air Force at age 17 and became a pilot.
Have one of two choices. You could stay in the Air Force and sign a bonus and then commit for like 7 more years, but they wouldn't guarantee that you were going to be able to fly that whole time. And I was kind of like Peter Pan. I just wanted to, fly around.
After leaving the military in 1995, she went on to work as a commercial pilot for 15.5 years. During that time and after 9/11, she did a stint as an embedded journalist in the military. That is where she found her second calling. She decided to leave her job as a pilot.
Landed, and then a week later from Dubai, and a week later started my pre-med classes at Columbia University.
Espinosa went on to become an OBGYN. Years later, and after additional training, she now also practices critical care medicine.
Yeah, that's kind of a weird combination of skill sets.
In the midst of finding professional fulfillment, Espinosa also found another love, this time in her personal life. She's been with her partner Ellen Ratner for over 20 years.
I would have never even survived, let alone have had this extraordinary life without, with having married the right person, someone who, basically wanted me to be the best version of myself. Come on. All right, good girl.
Espinosa is now also a medic in the Air National Guard.
What I've come full circle is to realize is to embrace that this is who I am. I love it, and to just keep trying to get better at it.
Kimberly Perez, Spectrum News.
Whew. Setting high aspirations has served her well. I'm Bree Driscoll. Thanks so much for watching. Your Spectrum News in 90 is coming up right after this short break. Stay with us.
The 2024 election will decide who leads our nation and the balance of power in Congress, impacting all of us. From Capitol Hill to the Oval Office, let Spectrum News be your resource for balanced, in-depth coverage with our dedicated experts in local politics. Strengthening democracy by informing your community. That's our mission. Available on all of your favorite devices, exclusively on Spectrum.
At Spectrum, our workforce of over 100,000 employees are all located right here in the U.S. You can find them in our stores, in the field, and in our call centers with 100% U.S.-based customer service. Our team works hard to provide the towns, cities, and neighborhoods they live in with the reliable services that everyone counts on, making us one of America's most trusted companies. We're Spectrum, creating jobs and opportunities across the country, and proud to be 100% U.S.-based.
When I never graduated from high school, I realized I wanted to go back to school because I didn't want to work these back-breaking jobs the rest of my life. With the help of my father and having my son, that was all the motivation that I needed to come back to school. I felt accomplished, made me feel that I could take on whatever challenges life throws at you.
Find free adult education classes near you at finishyourdiploma.org.
My mother was always very familiar with her neighborhood, but one day she stopped at the stop sign for much longer than usual, and she didn't know whether she should go forward or turn, and she wasn't even really sure where she was at. It was very unsettling for her.
I
I felt so much better after my son told me, Mom, I don't want you to worry or be afraid. I'll be there for you and we'll figure it out.